I'm not going to waive the 3-day rule.
Breaking news coming out overnight as Speaker of the House Kevin McCarthy has announced that the 3-day rule will stand for the debt ceiling talks, which basically means, in a nutshell, we've got less time than we anticipated, and this could impact everybody. Now, I shared this with you live, and I've got video footage I'm going to share with you in just a second so you can hear it for yourself. But take a look at the headlines that are now starting to roll out this morning. McCarthy's endgame on the debt ceiling begins to come into focus. McCarthy calls Biden's meetings productive and professional, but no debt ceiling deal as of yet. And we're hearing that the productivity was the fact that the two were willing to meet together and vocalize their stances, but there is no meeting in the middle as of right now. We are still very far apart, we're hearing, and like I said, we've only had until June 1st, we're hearing, but it's actually going to be less than that. You're going to see in just a second. Biden-McCarthy meeting ends with no deal on the debt ceiling. Debt ceiling talks grind on as both sides are far apart. And like I said, the 3-day rule has been announced that it will stand in place. Take a look at this from Speaker of the House Kevin McCarthy's page. Availability of measures considered under suspension of the rules. Purpose. This protocol is designed to ensure that the requirement that bills be publicly available for 3 days prior to the consideration applies to bills considered under the suspension of the rules. In other words, AKA, he is saying, if you try to pass something at the last second and push it through without giving us the ability to review it, you're wrong. While Trump is a former Speaker of the House, Nancy Pelosi, used to do that, I will have the 3-day rule implemented, which means if you pass it at the 11th hour on June 1st, we will still have 3 days, regardless of if we default, to review this bill.
All praises and glory to Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, Bahasham, Ha, Kodash. Double honors to our apostle elders, which rule Great Millstone well. And shalom to the hopeful elect, to the nation of Israel. May you endure into the end. Shalom wa abba. So as you just heard on the channel I played, that McCarthy, the Speaker of the House, said that he has the 3-day rule. So he's given himself 3 days to read over any deal that they put forth. So pretty much they're telling you that America will default on its debt. All right? And this is prophesied, the grinding shall cease. It says in 2 Esdras 15, verse 18, for because of their pride, the city shall be troubled. Whose pride? The so-called white man's pride. The cities shall be troubled. The houses shall be destroyed, and men shall be afraid.
The employees most likely to lose their jobs first during a default-induced downturn are Black and Hispanic workers as well as young and less educated workers, Holder told ABC News.
You see that? So if America defaults, it's going to affect you so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native American Indians first. So the so-called white race, which is the red devil the Bible speaks of, Esau, Edom, all right, they're not afraid to default because it's not going to affect them as much as it will affect the so-called Negro, Latino, and Native American Indian, which are the biblical Hebrew Israelites, all right, which I believe they're going to default, all right, according to prophecy, all right, they're going to default. It says, verse 19, a man shall have no pity upon his neighbor, but shall destroy their houses with the sword, and spoil their goods because of the lack of bread and for great tribulation. The lack of bread and for great tribulation. Who's going to be suffering the most? Jake. All right? The so-called Negro, Latino, and Native American Indian. And that's biblical because it's called Jacob's trouble. Jeremiah 30. Jeremiah 30, verse 7. Allah's, for that day is great, so that none is like it. It is even the time of Jacob's trouble. Who's Jacob? The so-called Negro, Latino, and Native American Indian. All right? But he shall be saved out of it. Talking about the remnant that make up the body of Yahweh Shai. For it shall come to pass in that day, saith Yahweh of hosts, that I will break his yoke from off thy neck. There'll be no more work. and will burst thy bonds, and strangers shall no more serve themselves of him. But they shall serve Yahweh their power, and David their king, whom I will raise up unto them. Therefore fear thou not, O my servant Jacob. Dealing with the Israelites, the so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native American Indians. If you are in faith of Yahweh Hashem Yahushai, and you're trying to move from the wicked of this world, you don't have to be afraid. The Lord is going to protect you. Saith Yahweh, neither be dismayed, O Israel, for lo, I will save thee from afar, and thy seed from the land of their captivity, and Jacob shall return, and shall be in rest, and shall be quiet, and none shall make him afraid. For I am with thee, saith Yahweh, to save thee, though I make a full end of all nations, which he's going to destroy the nation of the so-called white man, the red devil, which America is their heaven. All right? So he's going to destroy them and the rest of the heathen, including 2/3 of the nation of Israel, which want to be like the heathen. It says, I make a full end, though I make a full end of all nations, whether I have scattered thee, and we've been scattered amongst the heathen to be punished because we sinned. Yet will I not make a full end of thee, because he's going to save the remnant. But I will correct thee in measure. 2/3 will be put to death, 1/3 will be saved, and will not leave thee altogether unpunished. It says in 2 Esdras chapter 15, this is 2 Esdras 15, verse 4, for all the unfaithful shall die in their unfaithfulness. Behold, saith the Lord, I will bring plagues upon the world. The sword, which is that red devil, the so-called white man, which he's allowed to take peace from the earth through famine, death, and destruction. All right? So this is the end of the age of the so-called white race. All right? But at the same time, 2/3 of the nation of Israel will be punished for their disobedience in America. 1/3 will be saved, starting with the hopeful elect, the ones that are sighing and crying and prophesying of the return of Yahweh Hashem Yahushai, and we're sighing and crying for all the abominations that are committed in the midst of Jerusalem.